He thought it would be just another late-night drive. The road was empty, the glow of his dashboard the only light keeping him company. The GPS, calm and robotic, whispered directions into the silence. Turn left in 500 feet. He obeyed, not questioning why the route seemed unfamiliar. But when the trees began to crowd the road and the pavement gave way to dirt, a quiet unease settled in his chest. Michael had always trusted technology. His GPS had never failed him before. But tonight, something about the way it pulled him deeper into the forest felt wrong. The voice in the device sounded the same, yet colder somehow, like it was urging him, not guiding him. The further he drove, the more his headlights seemed swallowed by the thick trees, their branches arching above like skeletal hands. He slowed the car. There were no houses, no signs of life, just an endless path that wound deeper into the woods. "You've reached your destination," the GPS finally announced. He frowned. His destination was supposed to be his friend's new house, not a patch of wild forest. Confused, he stepped out. The night air was sharp, heavy with the smell of damp earth. Crickets fell silent, as if holding their breath. And then he saw it, half hidden beneath the roots of an ancient oak. The ground had been disturbed. Fresh dirt, uneven and raw, shaped into something unmistakable, a grave. Michael's pulse hammered in his throat. He edged closer, the crunch of his shoes unbearably loud. His phone screen flickered in his hand, the GPS map glowing brighter. The blue arrow that represented him sat directly on top of the grave. His name was carved into the crude wooden marker sticking out of the soil. He stumbled back, his mind racing. How could this exist? Who put it here? Why was his name etched into the earth before he even arrived? Behind him, the forest rustled. A twig snapped. He froze, his breath shallow, the silence pressing in all around him. And then, from the shadows, came a voice, not the GPS, not his own thoughts, whispering from somewhere close. "Michael, you're late." Michael froze at the sound of the voice. His heart pounded so hard he could barely breathe. The forest around him felt alive, listening, watching. He spun toward the sound, but there was no one, just shifting shadows and the whisper of wind moving through the trees. He forced himself to think. Maybe it was a prank, his friend playing some cruel joke, but no one knew he was coming this way. He hadn't even told anyone about this drive, except the GPS app he had just typed into. So how could there already be a grave waiting for him, carved with his name? Michael had always been skeptical of strange stories. Growing up, he was the type who laughed at ghost tales and urban legends. But he also carried scars from the past, scars that made this moment cut deeper than it should. His father had disappeared when Michael was a child, vanishing without explanation on a drive through a rural highway at night. The only thing ever found was his abandoned car near a forest. For years, Michael told himself it was an accident, or maybe his father ran away. But a part of him always wondered if something darker had happened. Now, standing here in the moonlit forest, staring at a grave that bore his own name, the old fears resurfaced. Could this place be connected? Was it coincidence that his GPS had led him here? Or was it something more? The phone in his hand buzzed suddenly. His screen lit up again, though he hadn't touched it. A new message appeared across the GPS map in bold letters. Step closer. Michael's blood ran cold. This wasn't normal software. His legs trembled as he glanced again at the grave. The dirt seemed freshly turned, as though someone, or something, was expecting him to finish the job. He wanted to run, to climb back in his car and drive far away, but his keys were gone. He checked his pockets, searched the driver's seat, the ground. Nothing. They had vanished. Panic rose in his chest, tightening like a fist. Another memory surfaced. His father's final voicemail, left years ago, the night before he disappeared. His voice had sounded calm, but with an edge of fear. If anything happens, don't follow the road they give you. Don't trust the directions. Back then, it made no sense. Now, standing at his own supposed grave, those words returned with horrifying clarity. Michael gripped his phone tighter, his breath shaking. The forest seemed to close in, every sound amplified. Somewhere beyond the trees, Footsteps echoed slowly, deliberate, heavy, and getting closer. He whispered into the darkness, almost pleading, "Who's there?" The footsteps stopped. Silence fell. Then, without warning, the GPS voice spoke again in its calm, mechanical tone. "Welcome home, Michael." Michael's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles turned white. The glowing screen dimmed for a moment, then flared again with new text, "Do not leave." He staggered back, chest heaving, eyes darting between the grave, the trees, and the shadows shifting in the distance. His instinct screamed to run, to escape into the night. But another voice, quieter, older, echoed in his mind. His father's. "If anything happens, don't trust the directions." And yet, here he was, obeying a GPS that seemed to know him better than he knew himself. Michael wasn't perfect. He carried regrets, secrets. In college, he'd lost someone he loved in a car accident, one that he blamed himself for. Since then, guilt followed him like a ghost, whispering that he was destined to repeat mistakes, to destroy everything he touched. Now, staring at the grave, that same guilt asked a darker question. Was this punishment? Was this what he deserved? A rustle to his left snapped him back. Something, or someone, was moving closer. Branches cracked under deliberate weight. Michael spun, raising the phone like a shield, its glow his only weapon. For the briefest second, he saw what looked like a figure in the distance. Tall, motionless, watching. And then gone. He shouted again, voice cracking, "Who's there?" The forest swallowed his words. Silence pressed in. Then came another complication, the sound of an engine. Faint at first, but growing louder. Michael's chest surged with hope. He bolted toward the dirt path where his car had been left, thinking maybe someone had followed him, maybe help had finally arrived. But when headlights cut through the trees, his blood froze. The car was identical to his. Same model, same dents, same license plate, and behind the wheel a figure that looked like him. Michael stumbled back, heart in free fall. The car slowed, the driver's face shadowed, but the resemblance was undeniable. He was staring at himself, or something wearing his face. The car door creaked open, but no one stepped out. Just silence, hanging heavy and cruel. 1,000 questions burned at once. Was he losing his mind? Was the forest playing tricks? Or was this something that had happened before, to his father, and maybe even others, like a cycle repeating itself? The phone buzzed violently in his hand again. Another message. Choose. Michael's breath caught. Choose what? Between running into the dark forest with the watching figures or stepping into the car with his double. Every option felt like a trap. A moral war raged inside him. One side begged him to run, to save himself no matter the cost. The other whispered that maybe he needed to face it, to finally uncover the truth, even if it destroyed him. His pulse thundered as he glanced back at the grave, the earth still fresh, almost waiting. The figure in the car finally leaned forward, revealing a half-lit face. It was him, but older, more worn, with eyes that carried something terrifyingly familiar. Resignation. Michael couldn't move. He could only watch as his own reflection spoke without sound, lips forming the words he dreaded most. "It's your turn." Michael's heart slammed in his chest like it was trying to escape. The forest around him seemed to close in, every shadow stretching longer, every sound amplified. An owl's call, the crunch of unseen steps, the low hum of the idling car that looked exactly like his own. He couldn't breathe right. Each inhale was shallow, ragged. His phone shook in his hand, the glow flickering as though the forest itself was feeding on its battery. On screen, the single word pulsed again, "Choose." His eyes darted between the grave, the car, and the trees. The grave looked too fresh, too deliberate, the dirt still loose as if someone had been digging only moments ago. The car, his car, stood there waiting, headlights cutting twin beams through the fog, its driver's side door still open. And in the shadows, those silhouettes. Watching, not moving, not even breathing. Michael took one shaky step back. "This isn't real," he whispered, though the words sounded thin, empty. But then came another voice, his own, echoing from the car. It wasn't loud. It was soft, pleading. Michael, come back. The sound rooted him to the ground. It was him, his voice, broken, weary, familiar. He blinked hard, fighting to ground himself, but when he looked again, the figure inside the car was leaning closer, eyes glowing faintly in the headlights' spill. The air grew heavier, pressing down on him like invisible hands. His father's warning rang louder in his memory. Don't trust the directions. But what if the warning hadn't been about the GPS at all? What if it had been about himself? Michael's pulse spiked. He stumbled toward the path, but his feet sank into the soil near the grave. The earth gave way slightly, as if inviting him in, the ground softer than it should be. For a split second, he imagined himself buried there, no different from the shadowed figures of the tree line. Panic surged. He tore himself free, gasping, sweat pouring down his back despite the cold air. What do you want from me? He screamed into the darkness. The forest answered. Leaves shivered though there was no wind. Branches snapped one by one, like knuckles cracking. Then from behind him, the crunch of footsteps, close, deliberate, circling. Michael spun, but the silhouettes only swayed, refusing to step forward. Instead, the phone buzzed again, harder this time, screen flashing words that sent a bolt of ice down his spine. Dig. His throat went dry. The grave. It wasn't just waiting, it was demanding. He staggered back, shaking his head violently. No, I won't. The headlights of the car flared brighter, blinding him. When his vision cleared, the figure inside was gone. The driver's seat sat empty. Michael froze. A twig snapped just behind his shoulder. Michael didn't turn around. He couldn't. The snapping twig echoed too close, like someone had leaned in just over his shoulder. His breath fogged the air in short bursts, his phone screen trembling in his grip. He forced himself to look, but when he spun, the forest floor behind him was empty. And then he heard laughter. Low, familiar. It wasn't coming from the trees. It was coming from the grave. Michael staggered back as the sound rose, muffled at first, like someone buried alive. Then, with a sickening clarity, it became his own laugh. His body stiffened. The grave wasn't waiting for him. It already had him. He dropped the phone. It landed face up in the dirt, still glowing with that single word, dig. The headlights of the car flickered, then dimmed. Inside, movement. The driver's seat wasn't empty anymore. A figure sat there, his father. But he looked wrong. Too still. Eyes vacant, staring straight ahead. Michael's heart clenched. His father had been gone for years. This wasn't possible. No, he whispered, stepping closer. Dad. The figure turned its head slowly, unnaturally, until the bones in its neck seemed like they would snap. And then Michael understood it wasn't his father. It was wearing his father's face. The forest groaned. Branches rattled like 1,000 whispers. The silhouettes in the trees swayed forward in unison, but not toward Michael. They bowed toward the grave. Michael's knees weakened. He felt caught between two impossible choices. Obey the command to dig and uncover whatever horror lay beneath, or climb into the car with a thing that looked like his father. Either path pulled him deeper into a trap he couldn't see the end of. And then came the true betrayal. The phone buzzed once more, its cracked screen showing a new message. Welcome back. His stomach dropped. He wasn't being led here for the first time. He'd been here before. The memory slammed into him. Flashes of dirt under his fingernails, his own voice crying out. The forest closing in. He hadn't stumbled into this grave. He had dug it himself. The grave was his. The forest wasn't luring him in. It was reclaiming him. Michael's chest tightened. Sweat stung his eyes. He backed away, but the soil beneath his shoes shifted, giving way. His heels sank into the edge of the grave. From the car, his father spoke at last, voice deep, hollow, echoing inside Michael's skull. You never left, son. You just forgot. The silhouettes leaned forward now, breaking from the tree line, arms stretching out, not to grab him, but to guide him down into the earth. Michael screamed, his voice swallowed by the fog. Michael's legs trembled as the earth gave way beneath him. The grave seemed to inhale, pulling him down inch by inch. His hands clawed at the ground, dirt crumbling between his fingers. The forest was alive now, branches snapping in rhythm, shadows circling like predators closing in. The figure in the car stepped out at last. It moved stiffly, as though bones and skin didn't quite belong together. The headlights behind it cast Michael's father's face in an unnatural glow, every wrinkle and smile line frozen in something that was almost human, but not. "Stop fighting," the figure said in that hollow, cavernous voice. "You chose this once. You'll choose it again." Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. Flashes of memory cracked open in his mind, hands digging through wet soil, the metallic taste of blood in his mouth, his own laughter echoing out of the grave. He realized with horror that this wasn't the first time he'd been here. This was a cycle. The forest wasn't killing him. It was keeping him. "No," he shouted, gripping the phone from the dirt. The cracked screen flickered, and another word appeared: decide. The shadows froze, waiting. Michael's breath came in ragged gasps. Two choices: enter the grave and be swallowed by the past, or climb into the car, accept the thing wearing his father's face, and carry on a life that was never his own. Both options meant surrender. Both meant erasure. His eyes darted to the phone again. The glow reflected his face back at him. Not his face as it was, but older, hollow-eyed, the look of a man who had already given in. His stomach turned. That was the future the grave offered. Michael made his decision. With a burst of desperation, he hurled the phone into the grave. The screen shattered against the rocks below, sparks fizzing. The forest screamed. The shadows writhed in pain, their shapes unraveling like smoke torn apart by the wind. The figure staggered, its mask of his father's face cracking, peeling away like brittle paper. Beneath it wasn't flesh, but soil, wet, black earth, the same earth that had tried to claim him. Michael clawed free from the grave's edge, scrambling to his feet. The ground shook, collapsing inward where he had stood, burying the phone beneath layers of dirt. The headlights of the car flickered once more and went dark. The forest fell silent. Michael's chest heaved. He turned, staggering toward the tree line, but something stopped him. On the edge of the grave, untouched by dirt or roots, lay a single object: his father's wedding ring. He picked it up with trembling fingers. Cold, too real, too heavy. And then he heard it, his own laugh again, but softer now, drifting through the trees. Not mocking, not cruel, just waiting. Michael froze. The forest had gone quiet, but not empty. The cycle wasn't broken. It was only paused. He clenched the ring in his fist, staring into the black woods. Somewhere out there, his voice was still alive, and it was only a matter of time before it called him back. The forest was quiet now. The air hung heavy with damp earth and smoke from the grave's collapse, but the suffocating weight of shadows was gone. Michael leaned against a tree, his breath slowing, the cool metal of his father's wedding ring pressing into his palm. For the first time that night, the silence wasn't hostile. It was almost listening. He turned the ring in his hand, watching how faint moonlight glinted off its surface. Memories of his father surfaced. Long drives in the old truck, his laugh echoing across summer nights. The way he always told Michael, never ignore the road ahead. It'll take you somewhere you're meant to be. But standing here, in a forest that had nearly swallowed him whole, Michael realized something. Sometimes the road isn't chosen by fate or GPS. Sometimes it's forced upon you. And sometimes you have to break free. The phone was gone, buried. With it, the endless loop of graves and choices seemed shattered. Yet Michael knew better than to believe he was free forever. The forest had shown him a truth. It wasn't just a place. It was a mirror, a reflection of the choices people bury, the regrets they hide, the parts of themselves they never want to face. For Michael, it had taken the form of his father. For someone else, it might be different. As he stumbled back toward the edge of the woods, dawn's first light broke through the tree line. The car that had once glared at him with empty headlights was nothing but rust and vines now, as if it had been abandoned for decades. The forest had played its game, and for now it was finished. Michael slipped the ring into his pocket, not as a burden, but as a reminder. The forest hadn't just tried to bury him. It had asked him a question. Who do you become when you're forced to confront yourself? He hadn't fully answered it yet. Maybe he never would. But he'd chosen to walk away, and that, for now, was enough. Looking back one last time, he whispered, "You won't have me." The woods remained still. The grave was gone. But deep in the mist, he thought he saw movement, shapes lingering, waiting. He turned away quickly, not out of fear, but out of resolve. He wasn't theirs anymore. Michael emerged from the trees just as the sun lifted, burning away the night. The world outside the forest felt unchanged, yet he knew he was not the same man who had entered. The story of the GPS, the grave, and the haunting whispers wasn't just his. It was a warning. Technology may guide us. Maps may point the way, but no device can tell us who we are. And perhaps that's the point. Sometimes we follow directions blindly, only to realize the path leads inward. Michael looked down the road, stretching before him. Empty, open, his own. Your story doesn't have to end in the place you were led, he thought, a final lesson echoing in his mind. It can begin where you choose to walk away. And with that, he took his first step into the rising sun.